Tomatoes are the heartbeat of every summer garden. Few things compare to the joy of plucking a sun-warmed tomato straight from the vine and biting into its juicy sweetness. But let's be honest, waiting for those green tomatoes to blush into red can feel like an eternity. Sometimes the plant is heavy with fruit, the vines are lush, but the stubborn tomatoes refuse to ripen. If you've ever stood in your garden tapping a green tomato and whispering, "Come on, just a little color," trust me, you're not alone. In today's Soil Sage Chronicles, I'm diving deep into the practical tricks and garden wisdom that will help you encourage your tomatoes to ripen faster and fruit more reliably. Whether you're a beginner gardener dreaming of your first ripe harvest or a seasoned grower looking to maximize your yields, these insights will bring those tomatoes from green to glorious red in no time. Before we jump into tricks, let's understand what's really going on when tomatoes refuse to turn color. Ripening is controlled by ethylene gas, a natural plant hormone. When a tomato matures, ethylene triggers the breakdown of chlorophyll, that's the green pigment, and promotes the development of lycopene and carotene, which are the compounds responsible for that rich red or golden color. The challenge? Environmental stress, too much heat, too little sun, excessive foliage, or even a nutrient imbalance can stall this natural process. Knowing this makes all the difference, because instead of blaming your green tomatoes, you can step in and give them the nudge they need. One of the simplest and most effective ways to trick tomatoes into ripening is by removing excess foliage. Tomato plants love to grow wild, putting out leaf after leaf until the fruit is shaded. While this growth looks lush and healthy, it also blocks the sun from reaching those fruit clusters. Here's what I do in my own garden. Once my plants have set plenty of fruit, I prune back the lower leaves and thin out the canopy slightly to let in more light and air. I'm not stripping the plant bare, just carefully creating little windows of sunshine for the fruit. Within days, I noticed tomatoes starting to color up faster. Pruning also signals to the plant, stop putting energy into leaves. Focus on the fruit. It's a subtle but powerful trick that gets results. This might sound odd, but sometimes a little bit of stress encourages a tomato plant to finish ripening its fruit. When plants sense their season may be ending, whether due to pruning, reduced water, or trimming the top growth, they shift their focus from endless growth to reproduction, which means ripening seeds inside the fruit. A simple method is cutting back on water slightly once your tomatoes are well developed. Don't starve the plant, just ease up so the roots aren't constantly in wet soil. This change pushes the plant to put its energy into ripening rather than making new foliage. Another trick? Topping the plant. By snipping off the top of the main stem, you stop vertical growth and tell the plant, "Hey, your time to fruit is now." It redirects resources from new shoots into the tomatoes already hanging on the vine. Tomatoes ripen best between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. When temperatures soar above 90 degrees, ripening slows down dramatically. The plant stops producing lycopene and carotene, leaving you with green fruit that just sits there. In hot climates, I've learned to create partial shade during the hottest hours of the day. Even a piece of old cloth or garden netting draped over supports can protect plants from heat stress and keep ripening on track. On the flip side, if you're gardening in cooler conditions, make sure your plants are getting as much direct sun as possible. Trimming surrounding plants or using reflective mulch, like a sheet of aluminum foil or even light-colored stones, can bounce extra warmth and light toward your tomatoes. Sometimes, especially toward the end of the season, you may need to pick tomatoes while they're still green and finish ripening them indoors. This isn't cheating, it's smart gardening. The secret here lies in ethylene. Place your green tomatoes in a paper bag, along with a ripe banana or apple, both of which release high amounts of ethylene gas. Fold the bag and leave it in a warm room. Within a few days, you'll see the green fade and the blush of ripening begin. I often use this trick when the first frost is threatening. Rather than losing the harvest, I gather up the green tomatoes and let them ripen slowly inside. They won't taste quite as magical as vine-ripened ones, but they'll still beat anything from the supermarket shelf. Tomato plants need a balance of nutrients to thrive, but when it comes to ripening, too much nitrogen is your enemy. Nitrogen encourages leafy growth, not fruit development. If you've been feeding heavily with nitrogen-rich fertilizer, your plants may look like a jungle of green vines, but stubbornly hold back on ripening. What you want at this stage is more potassium and phosphorus. These nutrients promote strong fruiting and ripening. I like to switch to a tomato-specific fertilizer or even make a natural feed with banana peel tea, which is loaded with potassium when I want to speed up ripening. Here's a quirky little trick I've learned. If you place a ripe tomato or two near your green ones on the vine, the ethylene gas from the ripe fruit can encourage its neighbors to ripen. It's like tomatoes cheering each other on. This works especially well in dense clusters where fruit is touching. Sometimes I'll even bag a cluster with a loose mesh or breathable fabric along with a ripe fruit inside, just giving nature a nudge. As the gardening season draws to a close, many gardeners panic when their plants are loaded with green fruit and the frost is looming. Here's what I do. First, I remove most of the flowers and any very tiny fruit that has no chance of ripening. This tells the plant to focus entirely on the larger tomatoes already on the vine. Second, I cut back on watering and prune more heavily, creating an environment where the plant's last mission is to ripen fruit. If frost is close, I cover my plants overnight with row covers or even old bed sheets to buy a few more ripening days. These little end-of-season adjustments often mean the difference between harvesting dozens of ripe tomatoes or losing them to the cold. While all these tricks work, remember that ripening is still a natural process. Part of gardening is learning to dance with nature rather than trying to control it completely. I like to think of these methods as gentle nudges, reminders to the plant that it's time to finish what it started. Over the years I've found that no two seasons are the same. Some years the tomatoes ripen early and in abundance, while other years they test my patience. But that's the joy of gardening. Every challenge teaches us new ways to work with the soil, the sun, and the plants we love. If your tomato plants are stalling, don't give up. With a few smart tricks, pruning, stressing gently, adjusting light and temperature, balancing nutrients and using ethylene to your advantage, you can encourage your plants to ripen faster and enjoy that homegrown flavor sooner. Every ripe tomato you pull from the vine is a victory, a reward for the care and attention you've poured into your garden, and when you bite into that juicy sun-ripened fruit, you'll know the wait and the little tricks were worth it. Thanks for reading this guide from Soil Sage Chronicles. If you found these tomato ripening tricks helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this article with your fellow gardeners, and drop a comment with your own tomato hacks. Together, we can keep growing smarter, tastier gardens year after year.